Here at Covenant, we serve communion every single month by intinction. That means taking a piece of the bread, dipping it into the cup, and receiving. Shorthand, a rip and dip. Okay? That's how we do communion, by a rip and dip. Rip it, dip it, eat it. Okay? But, every time I do it on Sunday morning, somebody gets so upset. I'm like, seriously? So that's just shorthand. That's how we do communion. So if somebody asks you, how do you do communion at your church, you can simply tell them, we do a rip and dip. And they'll go, what? But that's what it is. Technical term is called intinction. I personally don't care if you either rip the bread off and hand it to the person or you let them take it with their own hands. It doesn't matter to me. If you have a preference, go with your preference. Okay, but either way is fine. Personally, when I do it, I like to let the person take the bread rather than me ripping it off and giving it to the person. But you do what's most comfortable and meaningful for you. Okay, you can do that either way. It really won't matter. We will have 3 stations for communion. The first station is always right over here. Ta-da! Station 2 is right here towards the middle, but just off a little bit. So like right in here, okay? Because you're going to be hitting these people who are going to be coming. And then the third station is right over in here. And it really is more in the middle, because we've got the kneeling rail, and then we've got the gluten-free station at the far end. All right? So that's how we will traditionally always do communion when we're doing a standing communion. I would ask that you always stand on this bottom floor. Do not stand on the first step. People mix that up all the time. Go all the way to the floor. Because if you're serving a child, I'm going to ask you to bend down to serve that child. If you're on the first step, you've got to bend way down in order to get to that child. All right? And also women, you have a specialty that you have to watch when you bend over. So the more that you are on the ground, the better it is. Okay? And so just kind of remember that. In terms of dress code, just dress appropriately for your service. I would just ask that you not do flip-flops. Maybe not, torn jeans and all that if you're serving communion. If you're just coming to church, I don't care. But if you're going to be serving and you're going to be up front, just if you're going to wear jeans, that's fine. If you're going to wear shorts, make them long shorts, not short shorts. And just nice sandals and so forth. And again, women, when you're at home, do the bend test. The bend test is when you go over, make sure the shirt stays closed. If it doesn't, find a different shirt. Okay? Because you will be bending. And it's something we don't always think about. But you have to kind of think about that a little bit when you're serving, and simply be aware of those things on the days that you're serving. Okay? Let's see. So that is the first way. When we do communion, the pastor will always call you up when it's time. At some point, they will say, if you're going to be serving communion, please come forward. And that's when you will come forward. So just listen for the direction of the pastors, and they will let you know. When you come forward, you're going to come all the way up, unless you are second service. In second service, we're going to keep you more down on the ground. The reason being, for second service, the whole band is set up, which means you've got wires and cords and instruments and everything else. So the fewer people up here, the better. So we're just going to let the pastor stay up here, so they will get the stuff and take it and hand it to you from here. All right? But for first and third, you're going to come all the way up. So when you come up, whoever's the first up there, you're going to grab the hand sanitizer, and you'll use the hand sanitizer and then hand it to the next person. In second service, we'll bring the hand sanitizer down to you so that you can use it. When we forget, it's not if. When we forget, just yell at us to grab it, and then we will hand it to you. Okay? All right. So once you have done the hand sanitizer, we will hand you either the bread or the juice, and most of the time we'll remind you of what to say. And you'll simply say either the bread broken for you or the blood of Christ shed for you. And those are written in here too in terms of what you say. Okay? And we'll kind of remind you of that. Once everybody is served, we will dismiss you to go to your stations. So if you have somebody that you really want to serve with, you're going to serve as a couple, it's easier if you're standing together up here, so I kind of know it, so I don't have to try and figure out who's going with who while I'm up here. to figure out the bread and the juice. But some of you are going to come up saying, well, you don't know who you're going to serve with. Well, we can figure it out while we're up here. We are really smart people. So no frets, we'll figure it out, okay? So when you come down, again, you're going to come down all the way down. The people are going to come down, so the first person is always going to be the bread. All right? So they are on the right. Bread is on the right. Bread is always right. Yeah. And then the juice will be on the left. Okay? And so that's in all three stations. They will come this way to receive it, and then they'll go down and around. All right? That's the traditional way we do it when we do a standing communion. We will invite the people to come. The ushers do not dismiss the people. Generally, the people who are sitting in front are the ones who will start. But, you know, for some reason, it always happens to be a new person, and you can tell they're not sure. So you may have to say to them, please come forward to receive communion. And, you know, if you're standing right here in the first or the third row, it's okay just to say, please go ahead and start communion. And then they'll come, and then they'll take it around. We've never really had a problem with that, so I don't anticipate a problem with that. But, you know, this will be the first year, and then we'll figure that out. When you are done with communion, you'll bring it back up to me, and generally, whoever the pastor is, they'll already be up there ready to receive it. Because generally, I put the pastors on the gluten-free, because it's generally the first one done. So that way, they're already up there, and they're ready for you when you get done. If you run out of bread, there'll always be an extra, well, generally, there'll be an extra bread that's up there. If for some reason there isn't an extra bread up there, just go down to the far person over here, because generally they have the least people, and just take part of their bread. Okay? It's not stealing. They will freely give it to you. If they give you an evil look, tell them it's for Jesus. Okay? And then hopefully they will do it. That's what the disciple had to do, remember, when he had to go get the donkey? It's for Jesus. Jesus has need of it. So you just tell them, Jesus has need of it, and they will relinquish their bread to you, at least part of it, and so then you can live it. Again, we have come very close. There was one time we did communion, and the service came up, and I went to give the communion to the service, and literally, we divided the last little piece into two pieces for the servers. They were out of bread, totally out of bread. And so that does happen every once in a while, but we always have enough. There's always enough. If worse gets to worse, there's always the gluten-free. We generally have enough of that. So
Here, the bread that you break too.
oh yeah, there's the bread that we break too. I forgot about that. Yeah, so there's that bread up there too. So never worry about fully running out. If I'm up there, because sometimes we will have 7 servers without me, so I'll kind of stay up there and try and watch, especially when I know it's a really full Sunday. And you can just kind of catch my eye and I'll bring you bread. Or if I can see you're running low, I'll bring it to you and try and replace it for you and try and work on that. Okay. So, but again, that shouldn't be a worry. We'll always make sure that you have enough of that. If somebody asks, we always use grape juice. We never use wine. Never. Always grape juice and unfermented grape juice. Somebody asked me that once. Was it fermented? No. So if somebody asks, generally the bread is a white or an Italian bread. So if somebody wants to know the bread type, that's generally what it is, white or Italian. Once you have received your communion, I will dismiss you. And I'll say, please be seated, thank you for serving, or something like that. And then you'll just go down and sit. Now there is one change this year. One of the things we had asked you to do is kind of be watchful on your people in your area. You don't have to be watchful this year. We have put the onus on the ushers, not you guys. Because you've got people who keep traveling in front of you, and it's hard to watch and also focus on what you're doing. So the onus is now on the ushers. The ushers have been taught this year that they must sit in the back on Communion Sundays, and they must be aware of the people who are in front of their section while they're serving. They are to be the last one served. So the last one that you will serve is always going to be the usher of that particular area. Okay? And then they are the ones who will tell you if there's somebody in that area that needs to be served. Okay? So you can count on the ushers to do that this year. You don't have to be aware of that. Because I can see sometimes it's like, do you think they got it? I don't know if they got it. Should we go back? And somebody else goes back, and then it just gets kind of confusing. So my hope is that that will help solve some of that confusion. Is that onus is now on the ushers, not you. They will be the last ones to receive, and then they will tell you if there's somebody in their area that needs to receive communion. Yes?
What about the organist or someone?
We don't really care about them. Third service communion people, you are the ones who will serve what I want to call the outliers, but the lovable outliers. So people who are playing either the piano or the organ, people in the sound booth. Well, sound booth you don't have to worry about. They can come and get it. You don't have to go to them. They can come to you. Anyone in the sound booth, they can take a minute and come out and get it. But the people playing, they can't always do that. Now, every once in a while, for first and third, John will switch and allow them to take communion, but not always. But the only people who need to worry about it is third service. We're not going to worry about it first or second. And whoever it is, generally over here. Generally. But here's the interesting part. This is generally the last one's done. 9 times out of 10, this is the last one done. So, if you see that they're still really busy and you guys are free, and we still need to go to them at third service, just go over and serve them. You know, we don't need to make a big deal of it or strongly organize it. Just go and serve them. Because if for some reason we miss, I'll just serve them right after. Okay? So third service people will do the lovable outliers, meaning the people who are over there in front. Okay? So that should take care of that. First and second, don't have to worry about that at all. And even second with the band will have time to come up or come down and take communion. You don't have to worry about going and serving the band. They should be able to take time to go through the line real quick and take communion. I mean, they're right there. So that should not be a problem. That's on them, not on you. Any other questions around some of those details? Okay. So, very quickly, if a piece of bread drops, when you're all done, just pick it up. And we'll throw it away. Remember, we do not believe that it is the literal body of Christ. If it hits the floor, it's still bread. Okay? We can throw it away, or feed the birds, or do whatever we want to do with it. All right? So don't panic if something hits the floor. If it's your entire loaf, after I stop laughing, I will figure it out. But I've never seen the entire loaf fall. So I think we'll be okay. That'll be that. What is it? The 5-second rule or whatever. Pick it up! The communion juice. If the communion juice falls, again, we'll deal with it. Okay? So you don't have to panic. We would clean it up and we would figure something out. It's never happened. I don't anticipate it happening, but every once in a while, you know, when it's really warm, the outside of the juice, because it's been sitting there, it can get a little slippery. And I know it can get a little slippery. So I know that it can be that way. But you just need to know, if it should happen, we will all survive. Jesus will not throw a lightning bolt. And when it hits the floor, it is just grape juice. It is not the blood of Christ. We can wipe it up. Okay? It really will be okay. And we'll take care of that right at the end of service. We'll just get a lot of water, and we'll start allotting, and we'll get that picked up. Okay? So never panic about, what am I going to do if? We'll just deal with it. It'll be okay. The one thing you need to remember is no matter what you're doing, you are to be a non-anxious presence. That's your role as a communion service. Non-anxious presence. Wrong attitude. You're here to offer Christ, to be that loving presence. You know, this is Jesus offered to them. And we do that in love. We don't have to be anxious or nervous or scared or any of that. Although if it's your first time, I kind of get some of those nerves kind of take over. But after you've done your second or your third or your fourth, you'll calm down. It'll be good. You'll see the blessing that it is to really serve in that way. So one of the greatest things that happens is a couple things. One, they're going to take the bread, and the first thing they're going to do is eat it. And then 2 seconds later, they're going to go, oh, because they realize they forgot to dunk it. So then your job will be, you know what, it's okay, we've got plenty. Have more. You know, that non-anxious presence. Let them know it's okay. Every once in a while with the cup, somebody will come up and they will grab the cup and they will want to drink it from you. It doesn't happen very often, but especially those who've been brought up in other traditions, that is their tradition. If that happens, it's okay. Don't freak out. Don't yank it and go, no! Non-anxious presence. When you're done, just turn it a little. Okay? It'll be okay. I have never seen anyone get sick from communion. I have never seen, although you see it in the movies and you hear about it, that we're going to pass germs all over the place. Well, most people here have healthy immune systems. If they don't, they're down there at the gluten-free and the individual cups. So you don't have to worry about them very much, okay? It really is okay. You cannot catch all sorts of diseases by somebody just drinking from the cup, all right? It really is going to be okay. So don't worry too much about that. What else might happen? Can you even think of anything else that might happen? Oh, they drop the bread in the cup. They don't have to go fishing for it. You know, and that's why I want you guys to really be focused on the people that you're serving, because the person who's doing the bread, you can kind of be watching for that. And so if that should happen again, we have plenty here. Have some more. Okay? So here's the thing though that can sometimes happen, and this is what I want you to be aware of. So, you know, I've got the bread here and I'm serving people, and the juice person is really like a step and a half over. So I'm so focused on what's happening there, I don't even realize what's happening here. And so I don't really see it. Well, if you've got the juice and that happens, it's okay for you to go, you know, it's okay, we have more. Just grab a piece and give it to them, you know? Because they're not fully aware of what's happening. They don't always see it. But I want you to try and be aware. I want you guys to really stand together. You're offering this together. Sometimes we get so separated that one person's taking the bread and one person's taking the juice. I'm not against that, but here's how I would like it to be. One person comes up, they receive a bread, they dip it in, then they go. The next person. So you're doing it together. Does that make sense? To me, it's more meaningful that way. Otherwise, it's just assembly line. And it's okay to slow it down a little bit. We will have plenty of time, even if we have no time. We just make time. Non-anxious presence. So stay relatively close to one another. And move the cup by the bread. Sometimes they get that because we have the bread way over here and the cup way over there. And so it's hard for them. They literally take the bread and have to take a step to get to where the juice is. That shouldn't happen. The bread and the juice should be fairly close to one another. So the bread person is holding it out a little bit, and the cup person is holding out a little bit. So it's in the middle. So they can just take, dip, and eat. Does that make sense? It's just more meaningful. Can you even think of other instances that have happened that you're like, oh my goodness? Sometimes they'll drip it down their shirt. Don't tell them, you've dripped. No. Not anxious presence, they will figure it out later. You don't have to worry about that. Okay? It happens. So don't worry about it. Yes?
If there is a long line over there, should the people in the middle stay and have people come to them?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But yes, that's a good question. Yeah, we'll get to that. Any other questions though about what might happen if? Okay. When it comes to children, if you're unsure if the child should receive it, it's up to the parent. We don't decide that. So ask the parent. Would you like them to receive? They'll tell you. And they're okay with you asking. So just always ask them if you're unsure. Sometimes it's clear that they want to receive. And then bend down to the child, wherever the child is. Don't hold it up and make them reach down. Come down to the child and let them receive that way. Bend down and hand them the bread. Okay, that's why I want you closer to the ground. So that they know that they are valued as well. All right? Okay, so once you guys are in position and everyone is lining up, again, it's generally this side that's the last one to be served. If you guys are done serving and you see there's a long line, just simply move over a little bit and kind of wave them to come to you. Okay, so that then maybe that line will come to 2 ways. Now the thing is, sometimes they just won't do it. I don't always know why that is, but sometimes they just won't do it. But you can just keep trying and do your best. But you really only need 2. Whoever the third one is, if you're done, you can just head out. Or if you're third service, you can go over and serve whoever's over there playing. Anything else about any of those things? Okay, so let's go to the more complicated one. So, every other month, we will be using these wonderful kneeling rails. We all love them dearly. We really do. When these kneeling rails are up, generally there'll be a hole somewhere in the middle, so you'll be able to walk through and get through. When these things are set up, there's not a lot of room behind here. And again, remember how I asked you to try and stay close to one another when you're standing so that people can be served together? When people come to kneel, and that's generally what we do with the kneeling rails, we will ask them to come as they desire and to fill a spot at the rail. So they will be filling them at different times. And you need to be aware of that. So wherever you're serving, just think like 3 feet this way and 3 feet that way. Will it overlap with the people next to you? It will. And so you'll just have to kind of watch who's being served. We don't have markers. Do not cross this line. We don't have that in communion. Again, it's that non-anxious presence, simply to serve Christ. But when you're serving here, again, you're going to have to bend over a little bit, which means your feet are going to have to be back a little bit further, which means there is no room here. There's no room to go around. Now, I've seen people try and go up the stairs. Literally, I've seen people trip doing that. If you're ever going to lose this, it's when you're tripping. And so I keep trying to tell people, never, ever go on the stairs. When you are serving communion, never, ever go on the stairs. Pretend that you are hooked at the hip and move as if you are hooked on the hip. So if I've got people here and I'm the one who's got the cup, I've got the bread person here, we are going to move together. They're going to serve the bread, I'm going to serve the juice. They are not going to serve another bread until the person has taken the juice. You are serving one person at a time together. Then you will move down and you will serve the next person. The bread, the cup. The next person, bread, the cup. So the bread person needs to always wait for the cup person before they serve the next one. And you'll have to kind of watch, because maybe you've done this, but now somebody's just sat there and they're ready. And so then together you'll move down. But you stay together so you don't have to go around one another. You should never have to go around somebody, ever. That's just dangerous. It's very dangerous. Because there are a couple things that you have to watch out for when you are up here. One is these kneelers. If you don't know about these kneelers move. So especially if it's the first person going down, or one of the last people going up, or one of the older people, you as the server may need to lean into it a little bit. Because as they push off to get up, this will move. And then it gets a little dangerous. So I want you close, so if you need to, you just lean in a little. And it holds it steady for them so they can get up. Okay? So you just kind of need to be aware of that a little bit as people are getting up and down. When it's all full, you don't have to worry about it. It's only when it's not full, you just need to be aware a little bit. And no matter what, this thing, little by little, it starts getting shoved. And so you need to push it up so it's at the very edge. It should always be at the very edge for them to kneel on. Okay, so that's going to be up to you guys to make sure it gets to that position all the time. It stays in that position. All right, so that way, again, as long as you're not going around one another, you're always in position to lean when you might need to lean to help that person. Okay, if somebody comes up and they're like, I can't kneel. It's okay. Generally, we'll try and tell them at the beginning, if you can't kneel, please just stand. So you need to be aware of that. Sometimes they're just going to come and stand. But they might say, I can't, and it's okay. It's okay. We'll just serve you while you're standing. And just serve them while they're standing, and that's not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. If they come up in a wheelchair, go down to them in the wheelchair. Okay? All the way down to them and serve them in the wheelchair there. Together. And then you'll go back together. All right? Anything else about how this operates? You know, that's always the hardest part. And
Don't you sometimes tell them that when they're ready to proceed, they're supposed to hold their hands up?
yeah, lots of times when they're here, we want to give them time to pray either before or after. So what we do is we tell them when you are ready to receive, just put your hands out like this. And so that will be your clue that they're ready to receive. And so you need to always be scanning. I know sometimes, especially down at that far end, people get confused. Well, are they waiting for the gluten-free or do they want the regular? And sometimes they're literally waiting 4 or 5 minutes, which that can be a long time. And so sometimes I'll have to go down, they need it down here. Because they weren't sure. So try and be aware of what's going on around you. When somebody has their hands out, they're ready to receive. And if you're not sure, ask them, would you like the bread or would you like the gluten-free? So they don't have to sit there the whole time. We had one person, I think this was 3 years ago, they waited so long they gave up. They got up and they left without ever having received it. I didn't know it until the end of service. They came and told me, I never felt so bad in my life. They said, we waited and waited and they didn't come. And that's, that just broke my heart. So of course, so I took them right in and I wanted to say fed them, but gave them communion. So just try and always be aware of that. And again, if you're staying together, you're going to be more aware of it. Because if you don't stay together, doing the bread is quicker. So the person with the bread is going, body of Christ, body of Christ, body of Christ, body of Christ. Well, the cup person still is way down here, right? So now they're done. They see the person still. So they're going, oh wait, there's somebody over there. So they come up over here. Now they've served this person the bread. The cup is still going down here. They get down. They don't even know this person was served. And so now this person is simply waiting and waiting and waiting because that one didn't even know to come down here because now this person's back over here and it gets very confusing. And so now we get people separated. They've had the bread, but they haven't had the juice. And it's just because we get too spread out. Because the bread goes faster than the cup does. So that's why I have to slow you down a little bit so that you can be focused so that every person can be served. You know, so that's another reason to just stay connected at the hip while you're serving. Just stay connected at the hip. Don't use the stairs. Don't go around one another. Be there to either lean in and to be aware of who needs served. Okay? Anything else anyone can think of that you need to know? Every once in a while we do communion a different way, but if we're going to do communion a different way, we will let you know. Like we have the one service, you know how once a year we do a service where we bring all three into one? We're doing that in October 7th. Thank you. So I think it's also Worldwide Communion Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be doing communion very differently. Because what we did last time is we served communion here, but we also served communion in the narthex. And some people came forward and some people went back. It actually worked out very well. But if you're going to be serving those, we will give you the instructions when you need them. Okay? Because that might be different. Okay? So simply be aware of that. But we'll get you the directions when you need them. I think we did a practice last year for it. We kind of ran through it before, just so people were comfortable, and that worked out really well. So we'll probably end up doing that again. Rebecca, shaking her head so I know that I'm right. Any other questions about serving communion that you might have? Yes?
There's a sentence in it that says serving the juice with a napkin. Is that just a...
We haven't really been using napkins for that lately. No, so that's probably a thing we need to change in there. There used to be, the cup always had a napkin with it. And because we were doing that when I first came here. And there was always a napkin with the cup, because whenever I would hand the cup, I always handed a napkin with the cup. And we had tons of napkins, but we haven't done that in the last few years. So you probably won't have a napkin.
Do you prefer a napkin?
Really, that's more up to you guys who are serving. It's not a big thing to me. Just sometimes they wanted one to try and catch drips, or I suppose if somebody could take a drink, you could just wipe it real quick before you turn it. But I think sometimes they get in the way. It's one more thing to try and handle. The cups are not terribly heavy, but sometimes if you're holding it for a long time, it gets a little heavier. But I haven't really found anyone who has a real issue with that. But if you are serving and you definitely don't want the cup, and I'm handing you the cup, don't go, no! Just take it and then just switch it when you're going down with the person you're serving with. Okay? Again, non-anxious presence. It'll all work out. It always does. We've been doing this for 2,000 years. Nobody's died yet.